So this video is going to cover your SketchUp Greenhouse assignment. And following this video from very start to very end will get you a grade of a 90 on this assignment. If you want to earn a grade of 100, you'll have to kind of put some additions or add-ons to your project to show kind of a mastery of SketchUp in there. So we're going to follow a couple of instructions through our instruction file here on AzureLearn, but a lot of our measurements and pieces are coming from this website here, which is also linked into the instructions of kind of this basic greenhouse design for it. So the first thing we're going to do is just open up a SketchUp or a blank SketchUp file through the architectural template. So we're just going to wait a little while for it to launch. And then I have my SketchUp situated a little bit to kind of work with how I like to work with my SketchUp bars. But again, if you are opening SketchUp for the first time, to change some of your toolbars around, you can go into the View tab and then Toolbars. And I prefer, so by default, you just only have this Getting Started tool set. I prefer the large tool set over the Getting Started tool set. I also like to have the measurements checked off. That way I can see what I'm working on down here, kind of. And I also like the views option so I can quickly snap to my orthographic views. And then close out. The other thing that I prefer when working in SketchUp is to turn perspective mode off. I like just working in parallel projection. So I'm going to go into my camera and turn parallel projection on instead of that perspective mode. So our first step is we're just going to lay out our 4x4 kind of base of our building. So this is going to be made out of just 4x4s. And it's 10 feet wide and 14 feet long. And we'll make those 4x4s 3.5 inches in both directions to use actual dimensions instead of nominal. So to move around in SketchUp, as a reminder too, you can click your scroll wheel down like a button to orbit. And then if you want to pan, you'll hold the shift key in the scroll wheel to pan around. So to start with that base, I'm going to use the rectangle tool, which is keyboard shortcut R, or this button here. I'll start it right on that origin point. I'm going to pull myself diagonally, making sure I'm getting that blue feedback. And I'm going to type 10 foot, making sure I'm putting that single apostrophe, comma, 14 foot, enter. Now to bring it in the thickness of that 4x4, I'm going to use the offset tool, which is keyboard shortcut F, or this button right here. I'll click on that rectangle's face, make sure my cursor is on the inside, and then I'm going to type 3.5 or 3.5. I don't have to put the inches mark. I can just hit enter and it'll just assume inches. Then I'm going to hit the space bar to go back into just my selection tool. I'll click on this inner rectangle here outside of that perimeter one that I offset. I'm just going to hit the delete key on my keyboard to get rid of it. Then I'm going to push pull these perimeter rectangle up. So that's keyboard shortcut P, or this button right here. I'll click on that rectangle and I'm going to move my cursor up 3.5 inches, enter. Then I'll hit my space bar and my next step would be to make it into a group. So I'm going to triple click on it. I'm going to click 1, 2, 3 really fast to get all of the faces and edges. So 1, 2, 3, then I'll right click and I'm going to make it into a group. Just to keep track of things kind of as I'm working, I'm also going to paint things with different colors sort of as I go. So I'm going to go into the paint bucket tool, which is keyboard shortcut B, or this button here. And I'm just going to make this base, I'll use like this brown color here. And then I'll hit my space bar to get out of that. My next step is I'm going to put down my bottom plates sort of for each of my walls. And so I'll scroll down a little bit more. So these will be made out of 2x4s. So they're going to be 3.5 wide and 1.5 inches tall. And these bottom plates are going to run 14 feet long on both sides. And then this plate will run however long that one is for it. So I'm going to first just focus on these longer ones because this would be 10 feet minus 7 inches or 3.5 on each side. But really, we don't need to do that math, and I'll explain it a little more when we get there for it. So I'm first going to make my bottom plate here. So I'm going to start the rectangle tool again, which is keyboard shortcut R, or this button here. I'm going to start on this corner, and I'm going to hover without clicking so I can just kind of move my cursor to see where it would fit there. I could also type 3.5 inches, comma 14 feet, and then that will put my rectangle in, but I'm just going to hover over it, and I'll even Control Z to kind of show again. I'll click on one corner. If I hover over this point without clicking, I can kind of see where it would extend, and then I can click to make that. Then I'll push pull, which is keyboard shortcut P. I'll click on that rectangle, and I'm just going to bring it up 1.5 inches or 1.5, enter. And then I'm going to make that into a group. So I'm going to hit the space bar. I'm going to triple click it, 1, 2, 3, right click, and I'll make it a group. And I'll paint this one as well, kind of as I go. So I'll make this one, let's say, I'll use this golden beige color, sure, for it. I'm going to build out the rest of the wall just to make it a little easier to copy over to the other side, but I could copy this over here right now, but I'll wait. So I'm going to hit my space bar just to get out of the paint bucket command. And then I'm going to start the rectangle tool again, which is keyboard shortcut R. I'll start it on one of these two top corners, making sure I'm getting the feedback that it is flat in blue. And then if I'm ever unsure of which number is which, like which one is going to be the first number I type versus the second, what I usually do is make something like long and skinny. And so we can see over here that this current rectangle is 15 or almost 1 inch and then 10 foot long. So then that tells me that the first number I'm going to type is this direction, and the second number I'm going to type is going to be this direction. So I'm going to do 1.5, comma 3.5, enter, which whoops, Control Z. I think I did that wrong. Let's do 3.5, comma 1.5, enter. And of course, too, I can always just undo it. And then I'm going to push pull that up. So I'm going to keyboard shortcut P, click on that rectangle. I'm going to go up 6 foot, enter, hit the space bar, and then I'm going to make this into a group. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, click it. So triple click, right click, make it a group, and then I'll paint this one as well. So I'll use that same beige color and I'll paint it. Then I'm going to copy it along my path here, and I'm going to use 21 inches as my spacing, and then I'll just make an adjustment kind of for my last one. So to copy it, I'm just going to orbit around just to give myself a little bit of a better view, and I'll pan, so that's shift in the scroll wheel a little bit as well. So I'm going to hit my space bar. I'll select my object first, and then I'm going to start the move tool, which is keyboard shortcut M, or this button here. I'm going to grab it by my corner, but while I'm in the move tool, so while I'm moving it, I'm just going to tap the control key to copy, and then I'm going to make sure I'm going straight on this green axis, and I'm going to type 21, enter. Before I do anything else, I'm also going to type X7, enter, to see if I can make 7 copies. And if I needed another one without typing or hitting anything else, I could do X8 to make another one on there. Now, if your array didn't work, or maybe you left the command or went back into it, what you could always just do is Control Z to undo and just try again. So again, click on the object you want to copy, start the move command, which is keyboard shortcut M, grab it by the point, start moving it, and tap the Control key to copy it. 21, enter, and then I'll do X8, enter to say that I want 8 copies of it. Then I'll pan over to this last one, because this last one I just need to move in a little bit. So I'll click on that endpoint and I'll just squeeze her in so that way she sits there. I'm going to hit my space bar 100 billion times. And then I'll click on my bottom plate here as well. And I'm just going to copy this up to make my top plate. So I'm going to start the move command. I'm going to grab it by that bottom corner, tap the Control key to copy it, and then I'm just going to place it up here at the top. And then I'll hit my space bar to end that move. I'm going to then copy this whole wall over to the other side instead of making this a second time around. So I'm just going to click on one of them. I'm going to hold the Control key so I can select a bunch of pieces all at once. So I'm just holding the Control key and clicking on each of them. I can even right click and make all of these into just one group if I want. So now they're all one joined group. And then I'm going to use the move tool. So that's keyboard shortcut M. I'm going to orbit around a little bit to the other side so I can grab it by this bottom corner, tap the Control key to make it into a copy, and then I'll put it over here. I'm going to do pretty much the same thing with my walls here, but I'm just going to use a little bit of a different measurement for it. So I'll hit my space bar to get out of that move command. I'm going to make a rectangle. So that's this button here, or keyboard shortcut R. From one corner, orbit around to my other corner here. So I'm just looking for the feedback that it's that solid blue. Then I'm going to push pull or keyboard shortcut P. I'm going to bring it up, and I could type 1.5 inches, or I could even hover my cursor on this face here and it'll bring it up 1.5. I'll hit the space bar. Then I'm going to group this bottom plate. So 1, 2, 3 to triple click it, right click, make it a group. I'll paint it at this stage as well too, sure. I'll make it that same golden beige. And then I'm going to put in one of my studs. So I'm going to start the rectangle tool on a corner. Let's see, I think I want 1.5, comma 3.5, enter. If yours is the wrong way, just do Control Z and type 3.5, comma 1.5. I'm going to push pull this stud up that same height. So I could type 6 feet, or I could just click to just make it that same height. Hit the space bar, and then I'm going to triple click this stud. So 1, 2, 3, right click, make it a group. And then I'm going to just use my colors here to paint it. And I'm painting them as I go. 1, to just kind of help visually see it. But 2, if I paint them beforehand, it'll then go along with the copy. So it makes it kind of easier to copy it. Then I'm going to copy this stud here. So I'm going to start that move tool. I'm going to click on one corner. I'm going to tap the Control key so I can move it over 3 feet, making sure that like my cursor's straight on that axis. And I'm going to click again, tap the Control key 3 feet, and then, whoops, I right clicked. And then I'll click on this stud, start the move tool. I'm going to grab it by this corner, tap the control key, and I'm just going to put it on that corner. Hit my space bar, and I'm going to copy this bottom plate to become my top plate. So again, that is click your bottom plate, start the move tool, click the point you want to grab it by, tap the control key, and then where do you want to put it? And then I'll copy these pieces over to the other side here. So that's going to be tap my space bar, and then if I want to add things to my selection, I can hold control to select all 6 pieces that would be this wall. I'm going to right click and make them into a group. And then I'm going to move them. I'm going to grab it by this corner, tap control to copy, and then put it over here. So that way I've got the basic structure of my walls set up. Next, we're going to work on our rafters for it. So, whoops, let me hit escape and then the space bar because I'm going to move that around. And our rafters, what we'll do for them are kind of work with our tape measure tool to get some of these angles cut here. So I'm going to first look at my building head on from its front, and then I'm going to use the protractor tool to get my 60 degrees here. And it looks like we're going to make it 87¼ inches for it. So I'm going to use my views here to just look at it head on from the front. And then very carefully, without changing my orbit, so that's holding shift and the scroll wheel, just to kind of look at it. I'm going to use the protractor tool, which is this button here. I'm going to start it on that corner. So I'm going to click on that corner. I'm going to go on the red axis, so I'm going to click again, and then I'm going to go up. I believe it said 60, but I think we want 30 degrees. Let me double check. 30 degrees, that's right. Okay, I thought so. Whoops. So let me do 30, enter. Then, to figure out kind of how this shape's going to come together, I'm going to use the tape measure tool to bring that down the thickness of that 2x4, which is going to be 3.5 for it. So I'm going to use tape measure, which is keyboard shortcut T, or this button here, to click on this guide, and I'm going to bring it down 3.5. And then I'll start with my pencil tool. So that's this button here, or keyboard shortcut L. I'm going to start it there. I'm going to go up on that line, 87.25. I'm going to go straight down, straight over until it is filled. I'll orbit around a little bit, hit my space bar, use push pull, which is keyboard shortcut P, grab it, pull it out, 1.5. And then of course, I'm going to group that. So I'm going to hit the space bar, I'm going to triple click it, 1, 2, 3, right click, and make it a group. Then let's look at her from the front again. So I just went to my views here. If you didn't put your views bar in, you could go to camera, standard view, and then front. But I just kind of like these shortcuts here. And then we are going to make another one kind of here. So this is going to be another protractor, go up at 30 degrees, and then we'll bring it down and it'll kind of meet where it meets. So I'm going to use the protractor tool, which is this button here. Start it on this corner. I'm going to go on the click to go to the red axis. So I'll click again, and then I'm going to go up 30, enter. Then I'll use tape measure, which is keyboard shortcut T, or this button here, to click on that line, down, parallel 3.5, 3.5, enter. And then I'll use my line tool, keyboard shortcut L, or this pencil button here, to fill in this area. Then I'll push pull it out. So that's keyboard shortcut P, grab it, move it out 1.5 inches, and then space bar to end the command, and then make that into a group. So I'm going to triple click it, 1, 2, 3, right click, make it a group, and then I'll paint both of these as well. So I'm going to use my golden beige here to paint both of those colors. If the guides here, these protractor guides, are bugging you, we don't really need them anymore. So what we can do is within our, I believe it's either in the camera or the view. Maybe just kidding, it's an edit. We can go into the edit tab and we can do delete guides, and then they'll just all go away for it. Next, we'll kind of just fill in this area here for it. So we do have some measurements that we've been given, but we can also just kind of make some inferences of what we have. So I'm going to go into SketchUp and look at my building straight from the front. I'm going to draw a line, so keyboard shortcut L, straight down. And then I'm going to use my tape measure tool, which is keyboard shortcut T, to click on this line. I don't want to click on the midpoint. I want to get like this red on edge. I'm going to go over 3.5, enter, and then I'll use my line tool to finish this shape up. And then I'm going to push pull that out. So I'm going to do keyboard shortcut P, click on that face. I could go 1.5 inches, or I could click on the edge of this group, hit my space bar, 1, 2, 3, triple click it, right click, make it a group, and then paint it a color. So I'm going to take all 3 of these objects and I'm going to group them together just to make it easier to kind of copy these around or copy them down the line. So I'm going to hit my space bar and I'm going to click on one of my rafters, hold control, click on that spacer. While still holding control, click on my third one here, and then I'm going to right click and I'm going to make them all into a group. So they're all one group together. If this guide is bugging you, you can click on the guide directly and hit the delete key, or you can go into the edit tab and delete the guide there for it. So I'm going to copy these down the line, kind of where each one of my studs is sitting. So there's a couple of ways I could do that. One could be that I could click on it, start my move tool, grab it by that corner, tap the control key to copy, and then just kind of line up. So if I hover over that, I then can figure out where it would sit and I could click it. Or I'm going to control Z to undo that. We could do that same thing we did for the studs. So again, I'm going to click on this roof rafter here. I'm going to use M for move. I'll click on my bottom corner, tap the control key, and I'm going to go over 21, enter. And without moving anything, I'm going to do X8, enter. So now there's 8 of them going across. My last one though, the spacing didn't work out. So I'm just going to click on that last one's corner and just move it so it sits on the building's corner for it. Next, I'm going to build out these 2x2 kind of frames for the windows that are going to go in the greenhouse. We'll put some awning windows in here. And so for that, we'll use kind of the same ones all across aside from this one, because this one will have a little bit of different spacing happening in it. So I'm going to hit my space bar, and on this corner here, I'm going to start with my rectangle tool. So that's keyboard shortcut R, or this button here. On the corner of this group, I'm looking for that feedback of this green face here. Let's see, do I want to put it right on that corner? Let's see where he puts his. No, he puts his down further, so we're going to do that. So I'm going to hit the space bar to end it. I'll go back R. I'll start it on this bottom corner here. And I'm going to do 1.5, comma 1.5, enter. And then I'm going to use push-pull, which is keyboard shortcut P, to grab it and just pull it to this face for this group here. I'll hit my space bar again to end the command, and then I'm going to triple click, 1, 2, 3, right click. I'm going to make it a group. Then I'm going to do, I'll copy it down to the bottom rafter. So I'm going to kind of, let's orbit around and pan a little bit. There we go. My perspective was kind of throwing me off. I'm going to use the move tool to grab it by, I'll do this top corner here, tap the control key to start copying it, and I'll move it there. Then I'm going to select both of them. So I'm going to hit the space bar. I'm going to select the first one and the second one by just holding control. And then I'm going to start the move tool. I'll grab it by a corner I know, tap the control key, click where I wanted to place it, and then X8, enter to make 8 of them. However, I actually only needed 7, not 8, but that's okay. I'll hit the space bar to finish it, and I'll just click on these 2 at the bottom to delete it. The real problem I was planning on facing was the fact that this one and this one are too long because of the fact that we had to move this last rafter in. So what we can do to fix that is if I double click on this group, we'll see everything else got grayed out. So what I'm doing is editing this standalone group. So then I'll go into the push-pull tool, which is keyboard shortcut P, or this button here. I'm going to grab it by that face, and I'm going to pull it to that face. I'll hit my space bar, double click outside of that object, and then I'll do the same thing on this one. So I'll double click in it, push pull, click on that face, and then I can bring it in to this face. Space bar, double click outside of it. Our next step is we're going to add in some windows, and we're just going to go find some windows from the 3D warehouse. So to get to the 3D warehouse, you might have a button here on your screen in your toolbar, or you can go to the window tab and then 3D warehouse. You do need to be signed in to a SketchUp account or a Trimble account. And I'm just going to search for awning window. Didn't realize I had caps lock on. Let's see, let's load some more. If not, we can use one of these, but I like this one because it says simple. So I'm going to use this simple awning window. So I'm going to download it. It's asking, do I want to load it directly into my model? I'm going to say, yes, I do. And then I'm just going to click somewhere to place it for now. So I clicked to place it. I'm then going to grab it by an endpoint to move it into my window, but it doesn't fit yet. So my next step then is I'm going to have to scale it. So to start the scale tool is keyboard shortcut S or this button here. You'll have to make sure too that you have your window selected. So make sure you have your window clicked on, and then you can start scale with this button or S. And what I'm going to do is grab it by my middle grip here, just to move it on this space to the edge. And I'm also going to grab by my middle top grip here to make sure it's on all of my faces. So I'm just kind of moving it up, and then I'm clicking and dragging it so that way I can kind of lock it to that frame face. So that way I'm just making it the size that I wanted to. Then I'll hit my space bar to end it. And then I'm going to copy this into each of these. So I'll make 7 copies and I'll modify this last one to fit. So I'm going to start my copy tool, which is keyboard shortcut M. I'll grab it by a corner. While I'm moving it, I'm going to tap the control key and then see where do I want it to go. Whoops. So I'm going to put it right on that corner, and then I'll do X7, enter, just to make 7 copies. I'll hit my space bar to end it, and then I'm just going to have to adjust the scale for this last one. So I'll click on the last one. I'm going to do keyboard shortcut S for scale. You can also grab by like these corners as well to just kind of like quickly adjust it into size for it. So that way that one just has ever so slightly different size. I'll use the 3D warehouse as well to put a door in here as well. So I'm going to go back into my 3D warehouse. So again, that's going to be this button here, or window 3D warehouse. Sometimes if you're on a smaller screen, this button kind of disappears. Let's look for like screen door. Okay, I'm just going to go with this one here. It's a pretty simple design. The more simplistic a design is, the easier it's going to like scale and move. But like that one, she's pretty cute. But I'm going with this one. And yes, I'll load it right into my model. I'll click to place it where I want it to go. And then again, it doesn't fit perfectly, but I can use the scale tool. So that's keyboard shortcut S. And sometimes these grips are a little close to each other, but I can zoom in. You always want to go for that middle option. And I can even just grab that corner there to kind of fit it straight into that corner for it. All right, and then I'll hit the space bar just to go back into my selection tool. Now we have just a little bit more steps to do. So part of grouping everything that makes it really useful is so that this way, if we ever need to cover something with like a cladding or a face, that the structure itself is going to remain in there. So let's first just make a ground for our overall building. So I'm just going to do a big rectangle. So I'm going to start with keyboard shortcut R. And I'm just going to click somewhere far away. And then I'm going to paint that with grass. So I just made a rectangle. I didn't really measure it. So in my materials, let's go for ground. Got some soil there. Do we have maybe a better looking ground? Oh, I guess not. I guess that's our prettiest grass in the new version. That's okay, I guess. So I guess I'll just go with this beautiful, beautiful grass here. And then the last thing I'm going to do is cover each of these faces and then make them glass for my greenhouse. So the roof faces might give us a little bit of trouble for it, but that's okay. We'll get through. We'll go down here to kind of see what that final product's going to be. Particularly some of these like slanted faces for it. So let's do just some of our walls first. So I'm going to start with the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to go from my bottom corner up here, looking for that feedback that I'm flat on that red face. And then I'm going to go into my materials and choose glass. And then let's see, we've got safety glass, mirrored glass, basic glass, reflection glass with the sky. I'll just do basic glass. Put it on there, maybe safety glass. Safety glass at least gives a little bit more of a appearance to it. Because mirrored, no, I don't want mirrored. I'm gonna do the safety glass just to kind of give a little bit more appearance to it. Let's do another rectangle. So these are just going to be flat face rectangles. And we can even kind of do all of them, say, at once. I won't be able to do a rectangle here. Here I'm going to have to use my line tool. And I'm kind of just tracing around, trying to make sure I keep stuff flat. You might be saying, Dinah, sometimes you're stopping at studs, sometimes you're not. What's the difference? And unfortunately, kind of is none. Or I guess there is, but sometimes it's just what do I want it to look like? I'll just make those glass as well. On this side here as well, I'll use my rectangle tool. And then I'll paint it with glass. On my back edge, I'm going to use my line tool. So this one I'll put a break in between here and here. Because for me, SketchUp is really much more of a visualization tool, so we'll use rectangle now, than it is like a technical tool like Revit or AutoCAD. And then I'll make them glass. And then what usually gives us the hardest time is let's fill in these rafters here. So I'm gonna do a rectangle from that point to, and we want this kind of green feedback here that we're gonna be flat on that face. And sometimes it's hard to, I'll do Control Z to get it to give us that. Sometimes it wants to do this. We'll kind of see if I move my cursor around. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes, see here, it'll give it to me until I get to that bottom point. So what I could do is that, and then hit my space bar, click on just that bottom edge, and use the move tool to move that edge. Click on that point and bring it down. So if it won't do it, you can sort of manipulate it. Same thing then on this other side underneath here. So we're going to start the rectangle tool. I'm going to start it on this corner here. Looking for that feedback of those green face. But if it keeps giving you this diagonal weird face, you can just click up a little bit, hit the space bar, click on that bottom edge, just that bottom edge, M to move, click, and then you can bring it down. And then let's also paint those with glass. Should I make them sky? Sky, because they're looking up at the sky, I guess. And so that is your greenhouse as a 90. You don't need to group the glass necessarily because they are just faces for it in there. If you were looking to add anything into your greenhouse, so if you wanted to put any plants or features inside of it to kind of help prove that mastery of SketchUp, what you can do is put in a section plane. So that's this button here. And then click on the blue plane Don't worry that everything goes away, and you can name it floor plan cut. And then use the move tool, which is keyboard shortcut M, to grab that section plane or click on it, M to move, and then you can grab it and you can move it up and down. So you can cut it open, so that way if you wanted to add parts or features inside of it, you can. But that would be our greenhouse assignment as a 90.